Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining our webinar, From Zeros to GA4 Heroes, 9 critical automotive GA4 settings dealers must check. Sorry. Oops. Lost my screen real quick. Sorry, everybody. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. I'm your host, Connie Gundrum, Marketing Director for CF Search Marketing, joined by my colleagues, Thomas Cullen, Analytics and Tracking Manager, aka GA4 Guru, and Erica Long, Marketing Manager for CF Search. She'll be manning the chat today because today we have a chance for you guys to win a gift card for $25. When you engage in the chat, for every chat that you guys get in there, you will be entered to win for the gift card if you stay to the end. So we'll be announcing that later. We'd love for you guys to stay connected with us. We have a QR code there that you can scan to get our monthly emails, and also follow us on social media. Erica's going to be adding the links for our social in the chat, so you guys have links to all of those. And next month, we actually have already planned our next webinar. We are hosting a webinar with Google, and they're going to be talking about AI. So another very hot topic. So stay tuned for that and be on the lookout for that invite, because that's going to be an awesome one. So if you guys are new here and you're new to CF Search Marketing, we want to just share a little bit about who we are. So we are a conversion-focused, full-service digital and traditional agency. We were established in 2008, so we're excited to be celebrating our 15 years in business. And we're automotive experts with over 40 brands nationwide, including strategic partners like Stellantis and Volkswagen. We also have another very exciting partnership coming that we're soon to be announcing. And we were also a founding member of the ASC, I should say, Automotive Standards Council. So the Automotive Standard Council, if you guys aren't familiar, helps set the standards for GA4. And Thomas, who is walking us through everything today, has been a part of that.
So I'm just going to start by just saying the first thing we're going to jump into is a quick poll question. So the first thing I'd like to ask everybody listening today in the chat: how much are sessions expected to drop between Universal Analytics and Google Analytics 4? Give everybody a few seconds to answer. Any guesses? Any estimates?
We got a 38% said 40% said 8%. We got 12% at 12%, 29%. Oh, growing 8%.
Love to see it.
Yeah.
Well, just to spoil it now, guys, the answer is 8%. Sessions are expected to drop by about 8% between Universal Analytics and Google Analytics 4. Why? And that's because of how they consider, or what they consider, a session to be under the Google Analytics 4 property. So now they are tracking sessions a little bit differently. For example, Universal Analytics used to count 2 sessions if you were to go over into the next day. So if you started at 11:55 p.m., and your session ended at 12:25 a.m., that would count in Universal as 2 sessions. There are also some other minor things, such as generating a new UTM when clicked within Universal Analytics. However, GA4 does not do this. The next one we're going to discuss is a metric that everybody here is probably familiar with. As we all know, the very pessimistic bounce rate. In GA4, the bounce rate has been more so redefined and flipped upside down, in the sense that we are no longer focusing on the bounce rate, but we are now focusing more on the engagement rate. Why are we focusing on this? Well, the biggest thing we need to understand is we're no longer tracking the individual user's journey, but we are now tracking the session and how we can actually improve each session for that user as they enter your website. And finally, the biggest thing, events are now everything. I'm sure the first thing you could Google when you find GA4 anything is now page views, scrolling, etc. Those are all now considered events. So it's a very event-based platform. So the next thing we want to get into are the access management and why it matters. Access management matters now more than ever before, because before you used to be able to get a lower level of access, especially when you're granting it to a digital vendor or an agency. But now we need higher levels of access. And you can see the screenshot on the right as I'm going on to show what each explanation of each role is. Some of them are similar, such as administrator role, which is going to give you the full level of access. However, some new roles have started as well, maybe such as editor, marketer, analyst, and viewer. Viewership role is great for a development team email as well, so you can just pull all of that data, view the reports, and do whatever you need to do, just viewing, of course. The biggest ones you want to be aware of are who has what level of access. And I say this because if somebody who doesn't fully understand the new Google Analytics 4 platform has too high of access management level, what they can do is they can go in and start changing things arbitrarily that are going to mess up your reports in the foreseeable future. So for example, if somebody were to go in and start marking events as conversions too soon, then it's going to mess up your conversions reporting tab when you go to view it at a later date.
So Thomas, I just wanted to interject here because, recently we had a client, they gave us GA4 access and we didn't have what we needed as an agency to do what we needed to do. And we needed the admin access. So I think that, if you're a dealer out there, knowing that your agency will need that higher level of access is very important.
Definitely, Connie. The next thing we're going to be discussing are the data settings. So if you are currently in Google Analytics 4 and you would like to follow along from here, what you can do is enter your account, and under the middle column, the property column, you can kind of go down the list and follow along from where we're at, should you wish to set up your own GA4 in the process, or just follow along and see a visual. So for data setting essentials, the big things you need to know are data collection, data retention, and data filters. Data collection is the first setting on this list in which you need to tell Google that you acknowledge what you are opting into, that you are legally, and of course you are legally, going to be collecting that data from users who opt in, which also involves Google Signals, in which users can opt in to have more data tracked and give them a more defined audience role or user ID within that audience. The next thing you need to know after data collection is data retention. A lot of dealers currently have their data retention set for only 2 months when they need to be set for 14 months. I say this because, well, to put it simply, do you want your data to disappear after 2 months or 14 months? The best thing you can do is have as much historical data as possible, because that's going to be leveraged to improve your digital ad campaigns especially. And finally, data filters. Data filters does apply to everybody, but isn't necessarily the most important step here. As you can see by the mouse circling over it, you can see the current data filter that is going to be in everybody's account automatically, which is internal traffic. One of the things you can do by excluding internal traffic is by going in here and defining what you consider to be internal traffic, such as applying your IP address. And then you can then apply that as a data filter to filter out all internal traffic from your reporting, thus making it more accurate from a consumer standard.
I think when we get a lot of GA accounts, we see that this is not already done. So I think that is definitely an important one to make sure you're doing.
Definitely. So the next one, we are now getting into the more important steps. Audiences for precise targeting. Google will always give you a pre-built audience such as purchasers and all users. Given we are in automotive, specifically focusing on the dealership and tier 2, tier 2.5 levels, we're dealing more so with all users and purchasers. So we don't really see too many purchasers because we're not really focused on e-commerce, we're focused on lead generation for the most part. So the main remarketing audience that we're going to be using out of GA4 are all website visitors. And you can even see that I have another one in the screenshot here for you, new vehicle interest, which you can define however you'd like to consider somebody to be an engaged user solely focused around that vehicle. So for example, you can set up a custom event to go along with an audience for this custom audience to say, okay, this person viewed a VDP, not once, but twice. That's what we consider somebody to have new vehicle interest, not just in the market to research, but in the market to possibly buy, look up price points and more. So you can then leverage these custom audiences and built-in audiences from Google to use in your Google Ads accounts and more. Next, we have reporting identity options. This is a big one that we're currently seeing in a lot of GA4 properties. So you do not want to have blended, you do not want to have observed, and you want to have device-based. The biggest reason why is because what blended is going to do, and this goes back hand in hand with your data collection settings, in the sense that blended is going to mix the user ID, the Google signals, the device ID, and modeling for utmost accuracy. To be honest with you, if you do not currently have somebody signing in onto your website, which dealerships usually don't unless it's service-based, you do not want to have this because this can cause data thresholding. Data thresholding is something you will see in a lot of accounts with this setting turned on, because what's happening behind the scenes is Google is holding on to roughly, let's say 10% of that data, and they're trying to apply a user ID, but they can't because somebody didn't opt in, nobody signed in. So that's why you need to report which identity you would like them to apply, Google to apply the user ID to. Observed, think of it more so not as a sign-in on your website, but more as somebody opting into Google Signals and device ID. However, we are always using device-based now in the automotive industry, as it gives us the most up-to-date information and gives us no thresholding issues so far as what we've seen over the last few months. Next, we have attribution settings control. This is very important, especially for your Google Ads campaigns, as you're going to want to make sure you have the correct model. Google highly recommends that we now use the data-driven model, as it's going to give you the most accurate conversion information back in your Google Ads account. Why is this? Well, because they want to make sure that you got the exact piece of the pie in terms of getting that conversion or that lead as you deserve. There are also other models such as last click, first click, linear, position-based, and time decay. I highly recommend you all continue to use data-driven, as that works best with Google. Managing subdomains. This one is not necessarily something that's too big for dealerships out there, but is something that you could apply to a lot of websites in general. A subdomain is defined as a website or an app hosted under a different domain, but is owned by the same organization. As you can see in the screenshot on the right, I'm sorry if you need to zoom in at all, but one of the things you'll see is, let's say your dealership name or your domain is cardealership.com. Let's say you have a subdomain, blog.cardealership.com, or even express.cardealership.com. From there, you can then go into your GA4 property and configure it as a subdomain under your main property. So for example, let's say you have two websites for one dealership, and you have Chrysler Dodge Jeep on one website and Ram on another website. What you can do then is configure the Ram website as the subdomain as a subdomain, I should say, underneath that Chrysler Dodge and Jeep website. Therefore, that session, should they go clicking into your new inventory, they will go from one website to another, but because you have it configured as a subdomain, that session remains the same. The idea behind it is you want to make sure that it's one GA4 property per domain normally, but if you do have a subdomain, it's always good to configure it so you keep that session data, because now, as I said before, it's not the user journey, it's the session journey. This is the big one. So it turns out Mike Weiss just asked a question in the chat. What about collecting iframe data such as service scheduling, software, etc.? So that's something that more along the lines comes with the ASC program or the council, as we are doing right now. So we're trying to find standardized events to be able to work with our third-party providers and anybody else that has a mutual client at the dealership, to where we can work together, play along, and make it the cleanest possible view when you view your reports in the account. So for example, we have chat providers such as Gubagoo, CarNow, Podium, plenty more, of course, as we know. Gubagoo and CarNow, we have set up using the ASC parameters to be able to send their data directly into our GA4 properties. Therefore, you can then see that data collected in your GA4 reporting, which then gets sent right back to Google Ads or any other platform in which you're advertising from, where the lead came from. And that's really why the ASC Council is so important, because we get those standardized events across the board globally to where it alleviates, or sorry, shortens the time it takes to be able to set up your tracking, especially when we are on a month-by-month basis, or even just a short timeline, short deadline to get everything up and running. And that was a great question, Mark. I love that
It is
question.
a great question, and it's something dealers have struggled with for a long time, right? We're not tracking service.
Oh, definitely.
Service appointment.
Definitely. And that's why that's why I love the ASC Council so much right now, is because it allows us to finally have that standardized method to be able to track everything that we normally used to have difficulties tracking because nobody wanted to play along.
Right. And the service providers have come a long way. I know there's Update Promise, there's Active Engage, and they're all able to set that up now. It takes a little bit of work on the agency's end or whoever's setting that up. But we certainly have been able to get around that, right, Thomas? So definitely something that we're advocating dealers to make sure they're doing, so they're getting their full conversion.
Definitely, Connie. So the next one we're going to jump into here is mastering conversion events. Conversion events is a very important category here because we see a lot of people are going into these GA4 properties and they're confusing the difference between a KPI and a conversion. At the end of the day, our goal is to optimize for your conversions so we can focus on getting leads through your door, getting you that contact information so people who are in the market to buy a car are on their way to actually buy a car. Whereas we see a lot of people marking VDP views, SRP views for used, new, certified pre-owned as a conversion, but that's more of a performance indicator that you want to be able to see. Now, why this is important, because you may consider it to be an important metric. However, when you go and view your conversion reporting, you're going to find that the KPIs are not really anything readable, because you're not going to be able to distinguish the difference between what would normally be a 500 conversion AdWords campaign for 1 month versus 55,000 conversions for 1 month. And you have a $4 cost per lead when you really shouldn't in this example. So one of the things that you can even do further with conversion events is by utilizing custom events and conversion events by naming parameters. You can set up a custom event alongside other events through GTM or GA4, for example, which can then tie up 3 different ways to trigger that event as a conversion. So for example, if you look over to the form submit service_CF goal, let's say you have a service scheduler such as X time. If you have X time, what we can do is coordinate with them through ASC custom parameters to be able to set up a custom event in your GA4 property to then send that data to our conversion event and right back to you with all of that information necessary. And that's why custom events and conversion events are very important to understand. And if you are still looking for those VDP page views or SRP page views, you can always create a report, freeform report. You can always go to the reporting tab and view a landing page report or anything of that nature, or even customize your own freeform report to get as much information as you want.
So for the dealer that might not know what to look for, because this is a lot, right?
Yes, definitely.
We're talking about, it's almost like a foreign language. So really, when you're inspecting this, how's your agency set up, the conversion events? So is your chat, do you see chat in there? Do you see text in there? Do you see all your forms in there? Do you have a finance form? Do you have a parts form? Do you have a service form? Do you have a trade form? All of those forms, phone calls, they need conversion events. So anything that's on your website that would be considered a lead should be in there. So you should, when you open this, you should see a long list like this.
And it should also break down to what exactly the form type was or the communication type. So we have phone call, chat, and form. What type of form was it? Is it a general contact form, or is it a form that triggered on your SRP or VDP page because somebody was interested in that vehicle? And that's what we're trying to show transparency toward in our conversion events.
We actually have a question from an Angelica. She's asking, how can automotive dealers effectively leverage custom events and user properties within GA4 to gain deeper insights into customer behavior and preferences? And how should these insights be applied in marketing strategies?
Of course. So what you can do is you can create freeform reports or even view your reports, for example, to get an idea for what you want to go for. So for example, if you were to create a VDP page view report, you can see things such as conversions. You can see the cost per click coming from that landing page with Google Ads metrics. You could see all sorts of information. So you can see, oh, is this form doing great? Or is this page doing great? Is this page doing great? Which one's getting the most views? Which one's getting the most sessions? Which one is not? And you can see red things from all the way from red flags to green flags that make you feel like, hey, we're doing a pretty good job. And I hope that answers your question. Please feel free to let me know if I need to further elaborate.
Yeah, we'll share our email at the end, and you guys, if you have any lingering questions, we are going to have a Q&A session, but if we don't get all your questions answered, you can email us and we'll be happy to get back to you.
For sure. So the next thing we have is linking accounts for future success. One thing you need to know is there are 3 essential links in every account: Google Ads, the Google Merchant Center, and of course, the Google Search Console. Upon linking these, you will then have access in your Google Analytics 4 property to all of the data coming from those 3 platforms. There are also expanded options such as BigQuery, Google Search Ads 360, and more. Not everybody has those, so we considered those to be expanded options, as the 3 essential links for the majority of dealerships out there are Google Ads, the Merchant Center, and Search Console. As you can see on the screenshot at the right, as soon as you link the Google Search Console, Google Analytics gives you the access you need to create a Google Search Console report that can give you such organic search queries and even where your traffic is coming from for organic. Well, not necessarily where, but what the data is inside.
So we do a lot of audits, free audits for dealers that want to know what is going on with their get a third party to look at what they're doing online. And a lot of our first step is asking for their analytics access. And you'd be surprised, or maybe not so, that we see a lot of times these aren't even linked, just the basics. So definitely best practice to have those linked in there.
Definitely. And I'd just like to say one more thing about the Google Search Console link. You can currently only have one Google Search Console linked to one GA4 web stream at a time. So I would highly recommend you always grant that Search Console access to your always on SEO provider.
Okay, thank you.
So finally, we have more of a technical tool that is within GA4, which is the Debug View window. So the Debug View window, if any of you here are familiar with Google Tag Manager, it's very similar to that, and it is used for not just data layer and GTM troubleshooting through your website, but GA4 event troubleshooting. And that's why it's very important. So for example, in the screenshot to the right, the middle one, you can see that there are 2 page view events back to back. What this means, for example, in this troubleshooting example, we found that we had duplicating events, page view events firing on every page whenever they navigated to the next window. So what this means is when you view your engagement rate, you're going to see about 95, 96, 97%, which obviously we know is unrealistic. It's about the same as seeing a 5% bounce rate or less. So that means it's a bit of a red flag, but it gives you that exact insight you need to be able to see what is currently wrong and what you can test, fix, and set up for the future. You can also use this to make sure that your GA4 conversion events and just any specific event and specific really can be tracked and is firing within GA4. And when you see it, it'll be very good to see it because that means it's set up. So to be able to use this tool, you are going to need to install one Google Chrome extension. It is called the Google Analytics Debugger. When you download it and install it into your Google Chrome as an extension, all you would need to do is enable it on the web page and then go through that web page as though you're any user or anybody trying to test something on that web page, and you can see what is happening in GA4. Some of the key takeaways I'd like to bring up here are really just GA4 is Google's platform for future growth in the privacy-based future of measurement. With proper management, you can ensure success in analytics and your digital ad campaigns especially, And on top of that, we just need to embrace the change. Universal analytics is not going to be great for the future of I shouldn't say advertising, but for tracking your data. Whereas GA4 is going to be set up for the future of tracking your data.
All right, so we're going to go into Q&As. Does anybody have any lingering questions and or feedback? If you'd like to hear any other webinars on anything else GA4 related, I know it's a learning curve for everybody out there. So if there's anything else that you guys would like to learn, we could always host another webinar. Any questions out there? No. Okay. All right. Yes. Will this be available on demand? We will be sending a link, a follow-up email, right, Erica, that has the video of this. I know there was a lot to cover here, and you'll want to sit through slide by slide when you're analyzing your GA4. So we will provide the video.
Yes, Christina, 14 months is the max retention time. I believe that there was a point where they had more, but currently the maximum is 14 months, and I highly recommend 14 months to be in every single GA4 property.
What was the max retention time in UA? I don't know.
Off the top of my head, I do not remember.
Of course, I asked you a question that we couldn't answer, right? We could look that up, but I was just wondering. Interesting. Okay. Anybody else have anything? All right. Well, I think it's time for our winner. So thank you for everybody who engaged in the chat. We are going to announce our winner. Eric has been tallying up. So for each chat that you entered, you had a chance to win. So Erica.
All right, we're spinning.
And of course, that person's still supposed to be present. So we'll see if they are, and we'll get
our winner today is Ben. Yay, congratulations, Ben. We're gonna go ahead and we'll send you out an Amazon gift card. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks, Jen. Yeah, John, UA is unlimited retention time. Good to know. So that's going to be a difference, a definite difference. Okay. Well, I know this, again, there's a lot to this. Congratulations to Ben. Yes, there was a lot to today. So if you do need help from an agency that could help you with your analytics, we'd be happy to help. Just email sales@cfsearchmarketing.com and we'll get somebody to get back to you on that. Oh, we got one more question. Travis Arnold. Thomas, what differences have you noticed in the usability of GA4 compared to the old Universal Analytics?
Differences in usability of GA4 compared to the old analytics. Really, it's just the biggest thing is just how data is being collected, as I said at the beginning, more so along the lines of it's no longer tailored to the individual user in their journey as they browse the internet, but more so their individual session on your domain. And that's really just the biggest difference that you're going to see compared to the old Universal Analytics. Currently, there are a lot of kinks that Google is still working on, and so is the entire automotive industry. However, we're all learning in real time, and we are making sure that we get ahead of everything we can.
All right, I think that's it. Does anybody else have any other questions? If not, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And remember, we are 1 week out from sending our next webinar of registration out for Google's AI. So definitely register for that. Hopefully we'll see you next month, September 21st. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for showing up.